Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Coffee, Chaos, and Cash Flow. We are really excited to be joined today by Michael Levitt. This is a keynote speaker, host of the Breakfast Leadership Show, a certified NLP and CBT therapist, a Fortune 500 consultant, and author of his latest book, Burnout Proof. From his humble beginnings as a grocery store clerk to today, Michael has become the leading force on burnout and workplace culture for Fortune 500 and small and medium business organizations. What started as a C suite executive career in healthcare has turned into a mission to eradicate burnout in the workplace. Michael, thanks so much for joining us today. How
You're
are you
welcome,
doing?
welcome.
I'm so glad to be with you today. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. I'm really excited. I think you got a lot of cool insights to share with us and everybody. Going to start out with a couple of just fun questions to get us off to the races. So I'll lead off with what is a skill or talent that most people don't know about that Michael possesses?
This is a good talent.
Your unknown skills.
My unknown skills.
Yes.
Well, here's one. I'm a dual citizen, so I'm US and Canadian, so I can vote and screw up two
Okay.
countries.
Love it. That's great. I have a sister who is Canadian, married a Canadian, so I know a little bit, seen a little bit of that side as well. So that's fun. Where do you spend a lot of time in Canada, or
Yeah, I split my time
from
between
there originally?
San Diego and Toronto. I'm originally from Detroit. I'm hitting all the
Okay,
original six NHL
you're
cities.
yeah. I was to say you're really going from one into the other. It's like San Diego,
Mm,
Vancouver. You're going from one end to the clear others. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I would rather go, quite frankly, I'd rather go San Diego to Vancouver. That's just a straight
for
shot
sure.
north,
Yep,
and the weather in Vancouver is typically a bit nicer than Toronto. Uh,
Toronto.
mm.
Yeah.
yeah, my wife is born and raised in Toronto, slowly
Okay.
gaslighting her to spend more time in America's finest city. We're working
There you
on
go.
it. It's
Yeah.
slow. The fact
Is
that I got her
is
to marry me is, I
hey,
mean,
you're moving in the right direction.
count your victories when you get them, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
So are you saying San Diego is America's finest city?
I'm not the one that came up with that.
Oh, okay. That you're
That's a
sharing the quote.
moniker that they've had. I'm not sure from how long ago, but
I gotcha. Okay.
I'll roll with it.
Yeah, yeah, that's good stuff. It's not, by the way, but I appreciate that they adopted that. I'm just kidding. I was just giving some flag while I can. So go
Okay.
ahead, Eric.
I was going to say, what is going into the next question? What is the most craziest thing that you've done to recover from being burnt out?
The craziest thing was to go back into healthcare that nearly killed me.
That
That
is
would
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Well, my parents wanted to have me committed. They're like, "Are you absolutely crazy?" And my
God,
response was, "You've known me since you brought me home, so
you tell me.
you tell me." And I was able to convince them that I could go about it differently than I did before, and I did. I was in the field after that for, wow, that would have been almost 8 years
Okay.
after my burnout and year of worst case scenarios. Yeah, I was in it for a while, and then decided, okay, this burnout thing is too big of an issue for me to be on the sidelines for, so I need to do something about it.
Mm.
So how long were you in healthcare then at the time that the burnout took place before you got back into it?
It was 2 years
Okay.
into it. Yeah, so 2007 to 2009, and then in May of 2009, my burnout came to the head, as I like to refer to it, and boy, oh boy, that was a fun year that I dealt with after that.
No doubt.
How did
So
I guess looking back? Yeah, I guess looking back, what are some things that you were able to identify that could have prevented the your burnout that happened, and how long did that burnout last?
mm,
It was building up over 2 years. Actually, quite frankly, it was
Mm.
probably building up long before I took the healthcare gig, but it was definitely amplified during my first healthcare role. The things that I could have done to prevent it was, number one, eat better, eat foods that were better for me, work less hours, do things in life that I enjoyed doing, which I quit doing, which was really, really bad. And it was a huge warning sign that I completely ignored. Everyone around me knew that I was burning out. And
Hmm.
afterward, when I was recovering from it, and I would talk with them, I said, "Why didn't you tell me I was burning out?" And they told me, "We
Yeah.
did.
No,
You weren't listening. You were too far gone."
it's
So
wild.
yeah,
So it sounds like you're talking about things that seem pretty manageable, at least from surface level, and somewhat apparent, right? You eating better, doing things that you enjoy, not working a crap ton of hours, and yet also people were still telling you at the time, right? They were telling you, "Hey, we were trying to let you know, Michael, that this was happening." Why is it that you couldn't like pick up on that, or why was that communication not effective at the time they were giving it to you to cause a change before you hit the precipice or went off the edge? Like what why do you think people have those blinders up that we miss those calling cards?
I think a lot of it, and it's not everybody, but for me, being a type A personality and driven and being part of a brand new healthcare organization, it was a startup. I took it upon myself, even though I was an employee and not the owner of this
Yeah,
clinic, I took it upon myself as if I was.
Hmm.
Take ownership in what you do, but you got to have some boundaries around that. And I didn't. For me, it was I wanted that clinic to be successful. My ego, of course, was involved. I wanted to be viewed as a pillar in the community that helped bring this brand new clinic to an underserviced area, recruit physicians, improve the health of the community. All good things.
sure,
And time again, when you see people that are burning out or have burned out, what led them to their burnout, things that they were doing on paper, quite frankly, more often than not, were good things to do, but
Hmm.
they went all in and did not save anything back for their own wellness and well-being. They just ignored it, and they just said, "I'm just going to do this. I'm going to work hard. It's only going to be for a period of time, and then it'll recover."
mm,
And for many people, they just go and go and go until either they crash and burn, or they have a health scare, or who knows, something usually happens where they hit that point where the floor comes out from underneath them, they crash, and then that at that moment is one of those moments where you have to check yourself, and yeah, also have to look within in many cases. And I
yeah,
think that's where a lot of people that are burning out, they're afraid to do. And I see this all the time. People really do not like looking within and peeling back the layers and all that, because self-judgment, self-doubt kicks in. They
Hmm.
start
sure,
beating themselves up. And in my situation, it's like, I don't need to beat myself up. Burnout did a good enough job of that. I need to, okay, let's approach this differently. Let's kind of
sure,
approach it. And how I did it is I approached when I was recovering from my burnout and everything that had transpired. I approached things with a childlike curiosity. It's kind of like the 5-year-old version of Mike. And I'm like, okay, why was this important? And not judgmental, not beating myself up. Like, why was that important to you? What were you wanting to accomplish by doing this and by ignoring this? What was the motivation behind that? And to bring it out so I could look at that and go, do you think that is a good way to approach this once you do something like this again? Are you going to want to choose that tool in the tool bag, or are you going to use a different tool? That one kind of led to this stuff. And if you don't want to do that stuff again, then quit using that tool. And
yeah,
I did that, and I had time to recover and do a lot of reflection. And my one regret, and not that I have regrets in life, but the one regret was that I didn't work with a therapist back then, because I think
mm,
it would have helped a bit more. It would help me flush out some things sooner.
mm,
But I can't go back in time unless you're a Doctor Who fan. Then, well, yeah, you
sure,
can,
sure,
or Huey Lewis fan, or you can go back in time. But even if I did, would I change anything? No, because then I wouldn't be who I am right now. And
yeah,
I really
True.
like who I am right now. So I don't want to mess with the past. The
yeah,
past is what it is. It shaped me
sure.
to who I am right now.
It's interesting you talk about therapy. It does seem to be like crises experiences that bring that about, right? And so my sister's a therapist, and the therapy that I've had in my life came at points of crisis, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, now I need to go figure this out. And there does seem to be a case to be made about proactively engaging in things like therapy, not because you're, screwed up in the moment, but because there's probably a lot of stuff you don't know that you need to iron out and sort through. And if you do that before imploding, then you might not, right? Like you might be able to.
Mm.
It's so funny because it seems like we have, and maybe this is like what you would call a stigmatization or some idea, right? But it seems to be like we've only associated working things out with the problem actually surfacing. And so if the problem hasn't surfaced yet, then we don't have anything to work out because it's not here. It doesn't matter if it's under the surface or if it's kind of like slowly rolling along. I'm just like on the therapy thing because you brought that up. I'm curious, like, what do you have a recommendation for people, like if you're talking to a team or a leader of a team or an entrepreneur and you're like, hey, okay, what are the things that sort of tick off to you? Like this sound like there's a yellow flag here and here and here about what they're telling me. Is it 100 hours a week? Is it, I mean, there might be obvious signs, but are there like smaller things that you're like listening to? You're like, hey, I would recommend that here are some things you might need to go
Mm.
sort out. You might need to start attacking before 6 months from now when it blows up. What are those signs that you're looking for?
For me, it's kind of a blanket statement, but I say this in all confidence. I think every human being needs to have a therapist. All of us.
Mm, sure.
There's something in your life that you can either improve on or get more clarity on. It could be generational, it could be past traumas that you have buried and don't want to deal with anymore. It could be a variety of things. It could be just something that you struggle with in life that could be really small. It could be like confidence or public speaking or asking somebody out, any of these things. It could be something really, really societally big, and it could be something that most people say, well, that's not a big deal. But to that person, it is a big block. And if you can get through that, then many times the techniques that you learn when you're working through something, you can apply those same teachings when you're working through somebody else or working through something else, I should say. But to get back to your question, when I'm talking with teams or all that, and I'm kind of fleshing out, okay, what in their viewpoint is currently being a challenge to them? I don't want to say wrong because it may not be wrong, but what's a challenge you're struggling with right now, or is you're facing, or you're maybe ignoring and don't want to deal with it? And when they say that, then we'll flush it out, and then it's okay. Let's say performance is dropping in one of my employees. Okay, and do you know if there's anything going on in their personal life that could be causing this? I mean, it could be something major going on at home that you're not aware of, or it could be something really, really minor. It could be, who knows? It could be maybe they're a little bit of out of imbalance because their dietary choices are different than they were before, or maybe there's something physically going on with them, or just the weight of the world. The last 5+ years have been a bit challenging, I'd say, for many people.
For the
There's
broad populace.
Yeah, it's kind of a global thing, and it continues in a variety of different degrees, depending on who you talk to and your view on politics or faith or you name it. There's always a mess somewhere that we can find. But the key thing for me in working with people is if those things are stressing you out, then you need to put some type of regulation on yourself on how much of that you are consuming.
Okay.
Like we talked before, being a dual citizen. At the time of this recording, there's tariff wars going on between the United
Yeah.
States and Canada. I have not publicly shared my viewpoints on that because that is a no-win conversation for me.
Sure. Yep.
Because I'm living in both houses, and it's like I got two siblings or cousins that are going at it each other, and they each want me to pick a side, and I'm giving the middle finger to both of them, telling leave me out of this.
Yeah. This is a
I
lose-lose proposition
No,
here.
there's no, yeah, I'm not going to win this argument because I, and I'm not even, it's like, are there valid points, both sides? Of course. But at the end of the day, it boils down to just, you know, on, a lot of times it's just getting a better understanding of yourself. And I find time and time again, a lot of people, because they're so focused on what they're doing or their life or the experiences outside of their self, that they don't look within, and they haven't in a long time. It may not be that they're afraid to, they just aren't looking. And that the more in tune you can get with yourself and how you feel, how you operate, how you think, how you approach life, all of these things, once you get a little bit more in tune on things, then you'll have a better understanding when you're feeling a little bit off, or you're not a little more fatigued or a little bit drained, and you can again do some investigation, going, okay, well, why am I drained this week? What's going on? Is there something at work driving me? Am I having a relationship issue? Are my kids not listening? Not that that's ever happened before. I know if that's ever happened to parents, you're on your own. It's never happened before. I can't help you. I don't know. Or it happens every single moment of every day. It's one of the two. I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
Mine are all adults now, and I'm like, well, good luck. Wish you the
Yep.
best. Yeah, get out of the nest. Yeah.
That's great.
I don't know where you. I don't know. Care where you fly. Just fly. Yeah.
What are the objections that they're giving you to not rectify this? Is it always just time related? Is it always just because I know for me, Eric and I've talked this before. I can like put my head down for 2 to 3 weeks and never look up. Right? I can just go because in my mind it's like, hey, when this thing gets done, I think you even said it a second ago. Like then we can all look up. We can iron everything out. We'll be good.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
I've done that
generally
several
what you're?
times.
Yeah, it's like I just need to get this thing done, and then we can fix whatever
Problem is,
bombs
it
went off in the
seems like it always
process.
takes longer than what you think,
It's always a little longer than 2 weeks, but
and you're already
that's
dedicated. You're already in it now.
Yeah.
yeah. So like, how do people stop if I'm talking to you and I'm telling you, look, Michael, I get it. You're right. I need to watch out, but I need 2, 3 more weeks, 3 months, whatever it is, and then I'll fix these things.
Yeah. Well, you get that a lot, and I was guilty of it as too. It's like I just get through this just a little bit longer, and but the thing of it is, tomorrow never comes, or that three
Yeah.
months turns into 3 years, or
Yeah,
it just, because you find, instead of holding yourself accountable, you find excuses, and you just, yeah, I got to do this, I got to do that. I'm the only one that can do this. It's like, yeah, there's 8 billion people on the planet. You're the only one that can do that. I get it. No, but I don't approach it that harsh unless I've got that type of relationship with the individual. Usually it's a little softer than that. I'll say, okay, well, in order to kind of ease the pain a little bit, let's at least look at how you're spending your time. And you know, my original career was public accounting. We build hours, so I'm used to timesheets and tracking all of my time, and that's a skill that I've carried forward. And my calendar is color coded and all of that, so I know what my days and my weeks look like. And have the thankfully the flexibility to shift some things around when I need to, or if I want to. Uh, but for a lot of people, they don't have control of how they're spending their time, or they've delegated it to the point where they don't
mm.
have the leeway to say, I'm going to take some time away to do this. Or, like in the example you gave, it's like, okay, I just need 3 weeks. I'm just going to grind it down, get it done. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with that. Again, my original career was accounting. So tax season, again, at the time we're recording, we're well into tax season. And I haven't been in that field in decades, but April 16th, my shoulders feel lighter for some
Sure.
reason.
No doubt.
My wallet doesn't, but my shoulders do. Well, actually, my wallet feels a whole lot lighter. It's like, because there ain't
But
nothing.
which side of the yeah.
Yeah, there ain't nothing in it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, has Trump got rid of the IRS yet? No, I'm just,
Yeah.
that's that's the only thing I'm going to say politically about anything. But can you do that? Can we do that like retroactive? I don't
Yeah.
know, to
Right.
1985 when I first started paying taxes. Can we get a little retro?
Well, retro,
That's,
please.
Yeah,
that's
retro
great.
for all, man. Yeah,
Hey,
make my wallet fat again. Yeah, but it's when you look at how you spend your time can give you some insights as to why you're kind of worn out, because time and time again, and this is something I learned several years ago, was kind of keep. And some people hear the word keep a journal and they go, I don't have time to wipe my butt, much less keep a journal. I get it, but get an understanding of, one, okay, what are you doing, and two, How are you feeling? You can come up with whatever scoring system you want, but keep track of that over a period of time, because then what happens is like, okay, I'm working on spreadsheets this morning. How am I feeling? Well, some people, that's invigorating. They love doing that kind of work. There's other people that would much rather spend 3 weeks on a private island with their mother-in-law. Awesome.
Hmm.
Or
Yeah.
maybe not. I don't know. I'm not commenting on that one for sure. I shouldn't even put that out there, but oops. But we all know what we're talking about. Again, it's figuring out where you are, because for me, keeping track of how I spend my time and how my energy is has helped me kind of shape how I do things throughout a day, because I know in the morning I'm an early riser. So, my morning is not loaded up, but I'm doing things and I'm in the flow and all of that. By the afternoon, it's different. So the work that I do in the afternoon is different, because there's part of my brain that's like, I don't want to look at another report, spreadsheet. I don't want to look at any of that stuff. But researching or reading or having conversations or meetings, I'm fully energized. I'm good. Yeah, let's have a chat. Not a problem. I know that. So when I have the opportunity, that's when I move things around. And typically, even if you're working for somebody or working at a company, there's usually leeway on when you work on something during the day. If you are better versed to work on it in the morning, then do it. If you're able to work on the afternoon, do it. One of the side effects of COVID that we saw was, especially with the people that had to work nights because they were parents, and wow, our kids go to school the same time we work. Wow, that's weird. How do we do all that in the house at the same time? So what
Yeah.
happened is many parents were, approaching burnout or burning out, but what they figured out in many cases was, okay, I'm going to get up a little bit early, do a little bit of work, middle of the day, deal with kids, make sure they're doing their schoolwork and not on the PlayStation. At night after dinner in bed, I'll do a little bit more work, and then makes for a long day. But they found that, and what a lot of parents discovered was, and for some people anyway, they were focused and they did better work after 5 or 6 o'clock than they were doing in the morning. So a lot of companies,
Okay.
especially when they were allowing remote work for a while, some still do, some are like, get your butt back in. But
Yeah.
what we found was a lot of people are more productive and get more done in less time in certain parts of the day. And it's like, well, if you can design your work days and still be able to do everything you need to do and work with your team and all that kind of good stuff, and that makes you work at these hours instead of these hours, and the company is okay with it and your clients are okay with it and all that, do it, because that's your sweet spot. That's
Sure.
when you're
Yeah.
that's when you're in your prime time. And if you do that, work flows easier. And when work is
Yeah.
flowing, it's not taxing, it isn't draining. You don't feel overly drained by the time you're done. You might be tired, but you won't feel drained. And again, it's a life hack thing. It's a self-discovery thing, and you have to figure that out for yourself. I mean, you could tell me and I could kind of gauge it based on answers and things like that, but ultimately it's you that know, yeah, I'm more versed to do this and feel more energized to do this between these hours and these hours. Well, if you can, that's when you do it.
Would you draw kind of a connection there between that and something like emotional intelligence? Are those separate? Are they kind of on the same thing? Or how would you,
Yeah,
like, is emotional intelligence kind of different category?
I would group it, because I think what happens too when we're working on something and we're tired and drained, so our work isn't aligning with where our energy levels are.
Hmm.
That's when our brain starts doing all the self-talk and negative talk, and like, my boss is a jerk, I hate this job, I'm going to quit my
Yeah.
job and I'm going to go raise this or do this. And you know what, hey, if you have the entrepreneurial spirit and you think that is a product or service that you can market to provide for you, by all means go for it. If you want, I applaud
Hmm.
and celebrate people that want to go out on their own.
Sure.
It's not for the weak, it's not for
Sure.
everybody, but some people do it. But what happens is you start, and it's like, and you look and you step back from it. It's like, okay, does your boss really want you to work on this at this time, or is this something that you've allocated? Now, if it's
Hmm.
something, if you get, something drops on your lap at 4:30 on a Monday, and the boss says, "I need it 9 a.m. tomorrow." Okay, well, we know what's
That's your
happening.
time to work on it. Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
got that time to work on it, and does it suck? Yeah. Will you land a big client? Possibly. Yeah. Will that mean anything to you? I don't know. don't know your company.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll get something out of it. But thinking back to an office manager that I had decades ago, when he got a paltry raise, he never really complained about anything. But he says, you know what? I can't feed my kid a thank you. And
Mm,
I'm like, okay, well, not
yeah.
that money was a motivator for him, but it was one of those things where, he went above and beyond, did a lot of things and, helped grow the business, all that kind of stuff. And I could tell where he was coming from. And I didn't let that set an impression on me other than the memory of that, witnessing that moment going, and he was at a different place. I was young, no kids or anything like that. And he was, a parent of 2 young kids, growing family and all that stuff. So the fact that he did not get an increase was problematic. And I
Mm,
understood that. And what that does is that can demotivate somebody. But having
sure.
said that, last time I checked, he's still working at that organization, and that was
Hmm.
decades ago.
Wow.
So they sorted things out, and hopefully he's done well. I haven't talked to him in forever, but
Yeah.
I'm assuming he's doing okay. I don't
Yeah.
want to do the math on how old his kids are because they're well into their adulthood now, which my
Sure.
brain's kind of having a difficult time wracking my brain around that. But I'm a former accountant; I should be able to do that math, but I don't want to.
Just choosing not to. That's fair.
Nope, nope, not doing it.
So from a leadership perspective, then, what are you encouraging people? Like, if you're looking at this from a top down approach, how do you incentivize that type of emotional intelligence? Because it's one thing to be in the environment and have it personally recognized, like, hey, this isn't working out, and I shouldn't be here for another 5 or 10 years. But assuming that most people have it, and you're like halfway through an organization going somewhere, we got to come in and be like, oh, we need to add this track. What does that look like?
Well, a lot of it is just having those conversations around trust. And it's like, do you trust your employees? And I've had this conversation with executives. We don't trust them to do this and do this and do this. And then I basically go Tom Peters, if you're familiar with who he is. He's pretty direct on things. He has the phrase, "You're slow, fire fast."
Okay.
So basically, he would say, I'm not quoting him, but I'm pretty sure he would say, well, if you don't trust your employees, you should fire them right now. And then, of course,
Okay.
the management goes, we can't fire them. We need them. They're great. They do this. It's like, you said you don't trust them, but you
Yeah.
can't lose them. Why
Yeah.
don't you trust them? And then you ask the employees, and do you trust management? And they'll tell you a bunch of reasons why they don't trust them. So there's a trust factor there, and also communication. Surprise, that there's just this dynamic of the old hierarchical top down type of approach, which we are seeing, especially with the younger generations. They are like, I want no part of that. Henry Ford's
Hmm.
been dead for decades. So should that work environment and design. And I'm a Gen X guy. I firmly believe that. I think the hierarchical way of things, the way it's been designed, is not working anymore. It needs to
Yeah.
be different. And I had a conversation earlier today with somebody. It's like we're seeing slowly, but a lot of organizations are going from this basically leadership, here's this type of approach, to more of a, I'll pick on Coach Belichick. Well, probably not the best coach to pick on, but I'll pick
Sure.
on him for a minute. He's a coach. Okay, what's
Yeah.
he doing? Yes, he's a little bit more on the traditional leadership side, but work with me on this. He's coaching his players to execute the best plays so they can be successful and win. That's what leaders should do. Create environments for your people to thrive and grow and shine. What that does is it allows those people to be their best. If they're their best, they're going to come in engaged. They're not going to want to leave because they're working in an environment where they get to create and be their best and work on things and grow. And then you eliminate a lot of problems just by just a mind shift change, basically,
Sure.
to what are you doing to make sure your people are successful, is a question I'll ask a
Hmm.
lot. And
Okay.
I'll get some interesting answers. There are some that are like, okay, we're doing this, we've got this, we offer this program, we do that. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. You've got all those bennies. That's cool. And you pay them. That's also cool. But what are you doing to help them succeed? You're
Yeah.
basically, and especially I love doing this to, executives, especially if they got a bunch of sports posters or jerseys or a football helmet behind them or something. It's like, okay, you're a sports fan. Okay, you're going to hopefully connect the dots here in a minute. It's like that, that football helmet is from, we'll pick on Green Bay for a minute. Okay, so you're a Green Bay Packers fan. Okay, Lombardi, all that stuff. Super Bowls. They've had some, good run of it. Came close this year too, but not as close. But can somebody win besides the Chiefs? The answer is yes, apparently. So if you're a Chiefs fan, I'm sorry. I try to be neutral in all of this, but at the end of the day, it's like you want your environment to grow and succeed, right? Right. Okay.
Hmm.
And you ask the employees, do you want this organization to be thriving and helpful and healthy to grow? Hopefully they say yes. If they say no, then yeah, maybe calling Tom Peterson and say, yeah,
Sure.
out, because
Start axing.
yeah, it's like yeah, you don't have to go home, but you have to
Yeah.
go, I think is a Snoop Dogg quote, so get out of here. It's like you're not that you're not a nice person, you're just not the right person here. And again, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There are great people that just aren't in the right place for them, and the key is to bring in the right people that fit what you want to do with the organization. They see the mission, they see what you're trying to accomplish, they want to be a part of it, and you create that. And it's not a set it and forget it. It's an ongoing, much like a relationship or friendships or anything else. It's ongoing. It takes
Yeah.
nurturing. If you don't nurture, you don't water it, well, guess what? You're going to have a bunch of weeds, and well, it's going to choke out everything else. And we've seen many organizations fall by the wayside that were amazingly successful. Like a stat I share all the time is 52% of the Fortune 500 companies from the year 2000 are either gone or were acquired. So over half of the
Wow.
Fortune 500 from 25 years ago are gone.
Wow.
And that's mind boggling to think
That's
about,
wild.
because you're like,
Yeah.
these are the 500 top companies on the planet. Half of them in a quarter century, gone. And you're like, why? Well, there's some common elements. One, we've always done it this way. They ignored what their consumers wanted. They ignored the markets. They weren't treating their employees right. There's a combination of things that played into it. And or it could just be, we don't use those anymore. We don't need this type of device anymore because we've got this one now. Or who knows? It could be a variety of things, but you have to keep growing and evolving and involving everybody you can. I mean, yeah, there's certain leadership things you have to kind of keep quiet. I get it, but it doesn't mean you have to keep everything quiet. Figure out a way to get everybody's input and buy-in, because your employees are seeing things that you're not as an executive, and vice
Right.
versa.
Yep. Yep. That makes a lot of sense. That's good stuff. Michael, this has been a lot of fun. Wrapping up here on this conversation day, I'd love for you to, is there, in your experience, maybe a myth about burnout that may, or just, yeah, just a bad concept you've heard a lot of times that you'd like to shed some light on for people here that, like me, maybe you're a leader, maybe you're an employer, maybe you're an employee, and you've got this idea of burnout that is not correct. What would that be?
I think a lot of times people think that if they say they're burned out, that they're actually just lazy and they don't want to work. I've seen that, and not a lot, but I see it from time to time.
Sure.
But in many cases, that is just someone that's saying that is naive on what's actually going on in that person's life. If they knew
Hmm.
what was going on, then I would hope that they would see things a little bit differently. Now, having said that, the person that's burned out may not be able to verbalize what they're dealing with, and we see that time and time, or they don't even know they're burned out. Poster child for that. I didn't know. I should have. All the signs were there,
Yeah.
but I ignored them.
I know I was burnt out on this big project that I've been working on for 2 years, but I pushed myself to keep going because every time I took a break, I felt like I was being lazy, and that just went kept
Mm.
redoing it till it got to the point where it's like, okay. And then we went on vacation, and then I'm like, wow, this is so nice. I don't think I'm gonna keep going on that project. I need to take a break. But it took actually getting
Hmm.
away and
Yeah.
for my wife to be like, no, let's go on vacation. We're not going to do anything. And that was like, what are you talking about? We're not going to do anything? No, we're not going to do anything.
Okay, I guess I can do it for 1 week, I guess.
Yeah,
That's wild.
a lot of people do that. They can't disconnect from their iBinky. That's my brother's nickname for my iPhone is an iBinky. He says you're always on the damn thing. I'm like, well, I run a business, it's and then it's funny. He'll say, give me your phone. Give me your phone. So I'll hand him my phone. So here I'm handing you the phone. I'm setting it down over here. I got another
Or you could use
one.
like the
Just
Mac
in
feature and
case.
like be working
A
on it
little
while you're on the
backup.
Mac.
Yeah, the iPhone
Yeah.
mirroring. Yep.
Yeah, I've played with that a little bit. I'm like, oh, the phone's right here. It's like, but I get, yeah, it's kind of a covert way if you want to do that. Not that we are endorsing any type of covert
Of course not.
or
I'm not doing that.
nuanced activities. Kids, don't do
Right,
that.
right. Don't do that.
No. The
Yeah.
bail bonds number guy is 1-888. Yeah.
It's great. Michael, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for hopping on here today. I feel like these are really helpful insights for people in our community, our audience, that I think if
There's
you
hope for
haven't
you.
gotten to burnout yet, I think entrepreneurs are probably, yeah, there's hope for you. You're probably uniquely positioned to head that direction if you don't course correct. I think that that's just generally, you are going to wind up there almost by value of being human, definitely more so by value of being an entrepreneur, unless you make some adjustments beforehand. It seems like that's just how this goes. So I appreciate you coming on, sharing with us on how to be practically aware and proactively aware on these things. So how can we stay connected with you? What is the best channel for that? And yeah.
Yeah, best place is just go to breakfastleadership.com on most of the social media channels. If you go to breakfastleadership.com/burnout book and just give me your name and email, I'll email you a PDF copy of my burnout proof book. It's a quick read.
There you go.
It's not a Tim Ferriss Tool of Titans. You don't need
Okay.
you don't need a luggage cart to carry the thing around. It's less than 100 pages. That's intentional because if you're burned out, here, read this 300-page
Excellent.
book. Not going to happen.
Little literary
Yeah.
piece. Oh, that's
Yeah. So
great.
it's like quick, just, skim through it. It
Nice.
flows like a conversation. There's some humor in there. It kind of gives the backstory of my burnout journey and all that and the signs of burnout. And hopefully people can head it off before they
Hmm.
hit because burnout's not fun. I don't want that on anybody. So if you can prevent it, please do.
Awesome. Well, we will link that here in the show notes and sure appreciate that. Thanks again. And hopefully we will get to chat with you down the road once more. It'd be great to connect. And if you're
Give us a
ever
ring.
over in Lexington, Kentucky, look us up and we'll take you out for a bourbon tour or a horse race or whatever suits your fancy there. So we can make a case for the premier value of Lexington. I'm a big Lexington guy, so I love to sing its praises.
And you should be. It's a
Thank you.
beautiful part of our country. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks, Michael. It's been great. Have a great rest of your week.
Be well. Thank you.
Cheers.